You thought it was on Tuesday.
Okay. We're ready.
All right. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Okay, Counselor Smalley. Counselor Grousman, Counselor Hamilton, Counselor Woods. Counselor Diggle will be here shortly. Counselor Whitaker, Mayor Sumner.
Here. Introduction of media. Any media present? Anyone wishing to speak before the city council tonight on any subject matter will need to fill out a speaker form and turn it into the recorder. Forms are available on the sign-in table in the back of the room. Please turn cell phones off or silence them during the meeting. Announcement for Zoom attendees. If you're joining tonight's meeting via Zoom, you will automatically be muted upon entry and you'll need to identify yourself if your full name is not already attached to the device being used. You will be unable to unmute yourself. If you wish to speak, use the raise your hand feature. To use it, click on the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and click on the image of a hand. Public comments. The purpose of this public comment period is to allow citizens to present information or raise issues regarding agenda items only. There will be a time at the end of the meeting for citizens to speak about off-agenda items. The time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. All citizens must come up to the microphone. Begin. Any other comments? Other than that.
Do you want him to do it now or when we do? He wants to speak about something on the agenda.
No.
That's what it says. You must say
Okay.
yes.
Well, we'll move past this one. You said are you speaking as a citizen then?
He said he wanted to use that as his pass anytime he wanted to speak.
Oh, I see. Oh, you have issues.
I'm going to consent agenda. Minutes from January 9th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Any further vote?
Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Grousman,
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton.
Aye.
Counselor Woods. Counselor Whitaker.
Aye.
Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On presentation from Sutherland Sanitary Service update.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Grant Fahey. I am the operations manager for Sutherland Sanitary Service. About 9 months ago, so the last time I was up here, for a rate increase. At the time, Councillor Boggs requested a 6-month update because the increase was based on fuel prices and inflation. To that point, I would like to say that yes, fuel has gone down. However, inflation has continued. For example, back in 2020, a normal residential roll cart was between $40 and $50 a piece, depending on the size. They are now between $50 and $70 a piece. A new automated garbage truck was, we bought one in 2020, was $294,000. I got a quote about 3 months ago for $380,000. That's where we're at. I would like the council to consider adopting the rates as they are as our normal rates. Any questions?
I have a question for our city attorney is, at the end of the day, if the council does nothing, the rates would stay as they originally approved. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, you don't look bad.
Appreciate that.
Especially for him.
So at the end of the day, no action by the council would mean approval of continuing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one presentation I would like to add to the agenda. Melanie, would you like to come up?
What'd you do?
I don't know.
No, you can come up. We'd like to congratulate you on your 5 years in the city, February 12th. And so I want to thank you and present you with your 5-year pin. Thank you.
And you thought I forgot. 5 years with me is like 1,000. That's taken from the Bible.
I have a lot of gray hair.
As few words as possible. She's great. It's always, we have a great team, you know. Diana and I were talking about how when she first came on, she likes to take over City Hall.
I did not say that.
She's a straight, or everybody's straight. In fact, I want to start doing that more often and start recognizing the staff when, you know, they achieve a milestone. So 5 years, boy. Debbie, that means you've been gone 5 years.
4.
4?
She was in for,
Oh, that's right. That's right. What a blessing that's been.
It didn't last long giving compliments.
I know, right?
Staff report.
Madam Mayor, council members, Tammy Trowbridge, Finance Director, and you have in your packet the proposed budget calendar for the fiscal year 23-24 coming up. We're running into our budget process once again. Here we go. Number 3 for me. Anyway, I've basically kept the same time frame as we had in the prior 2 years. And if there's no exceptions or things to it, there is one thing you should know about, and this we're planning on staying with the same schedule if it's okay with you. Jerry will be out as of the 15th and 16th because he will be in Portland with his wife, but he feels like the staff would be able to carry on from that point. So, and I believe all they need to do is accept it or approve it. Is there a vote that's necessary on this? Okay, there you go.
Yes, ma'am. You approve budget calendar. Presented. We have a motion in a second. Any discussion?
Counselor Smalley, Counselor Grousman, Counselor Hamilton, Counselor Woods, Counselor Whitaker, Mayor Sumner, motion carries.
We have a public hearing and resolution 2023.01 supplemental budget adjustment fiscal year 2022-23. Staff report.
Madam Mayor, council members, Tammy Trowbridge. There were several items that were unforeseen at the time the budget was prepared, including, and you'll see that attachment with the different categories there, but I'm just going to highlight what those categories were. So the transient room tax receipts came in significantly over our budget the prior year and also look like they're going to be strong this year. And our agreement with the chamber calls for 62.5% to be distributed to them. So there's an adjustment for that. We've got the Ford's Pond project grants needing to be revised based on sharp project price increases. And so this is just kind of getting ahead of that curve, so we don't have to do this again later for that project. Wildland protection grants became available and fed into this budget year, which we don't have to make a budget change for revenue, but it's the corresponding expense that I'm trying to account for here, that we had additional wages and salaries in the fire department that were completely covered by grants. But the expense not recognized. And so we need a budget adjustment to be able to do that. In fact, most of the budget adjustments that you see on here are completely covered with additional revenue. There's very little that is not covered with actual revenue. The price increases for vehicle fuel and the increased costs associated with membership on the OCCMA board for the city manager and just a couple other things, but those are all small things. This is also, we're formalizing your approval for the fire UTV and trailer. So, and also we're formalizing the fact that we had budgeted for a vehicle for the water department and the actual vehicle came in at $6,000 more than what we had budgeted. So that addition is on here as well. So that is what these budget adjustment items are about. Questions?
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open the public hearing. And is there any public comment? And at this point, I will close the public hearing. And on to resolution 2023.01 supplemental budget adjustment fiscal year 2022-23. Have a motion to approve resolution 2023.01 supplemental budget adjustment as presented.
I move that we accept resolution 2023.01 supplemental budget adjustment as presented.
Second.
I have a question.
Who seconded? Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, okay. When looking at the budget, it went from an adjusted under like the tourism tax of $50,000 and the amended was 100,000, a little over 100,000 more. So that those funds are covered through grants.
No, those are tourism room
And
tax
what about for
receipts.
the Parks construction.
That is grants.
Those
Yes.
are all covered by grants.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other discussion?
Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Grousman. Counselor Hamilton. Counselor Woods. Counselor Daigle. Counselor Whitaker. Mayor Sumner. Motion carries.
Resolution 2023.02 Oregon Community Park Grant Authorization. Yeah.
And also, Chrissy Gilbert, can you know?
So we're always looking for transportation funding. So there, Oregon Transportation Commission has allotted funding for applications of multi-use pathways that one of the requirements is to be separated from the existing roadway with a minimum of 5 feet. So staff submitted the requirement letter of intent. Zoom in at the and from that, they invite you to apply. We submitted that in September. Were met all the requirements, so we're invited to apply for the application. This application was for a multi-use path. Some of their sidewalks in between, so bear with me as I describe it. It continues from pretty much I-5. The sidewalk would continue west and it will route behind Dairy Queen, Starbucks, connecting to Cloverleaf. It would continue to Dakota Street, and then we're gonna cross, because that'll eventually be a hopefully lighted intersection. Crossing to south of Highway 138, heading to the south side of Fort McKay. At Shadysky, we would then, so that would capture all of the residential development that will eventually take place on Fort McKay. On that portion, we would cross with a flashing beacon, I propose, to Highway Haven. And then that would take it to the north side of Fort McKay, keeping in mind the topography of the path crossing. We want to make sure there's full visibility for pedestrians, bicyclists to cross. And then also it would capture all of the residential development that exists on the north side of Fort McKay. We would continue down on the east side of Church, again, keeping topography and development constraints in mind. We're trying to avoid wetlands, visibility, expense for development. And so then we would take it down to Westlake, not Westview, sorry, and jump it over to Forbes Pond side on the west. And it would end there. And so with that, we are proposing for the design and engineering portion. And that is approximately 835,000. And then the percentage match that would be required is 10.27%. And so that would be approximately $86,000.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2023.02 Oregon Community Parks Grant authorization as presented.
I move that we approve resolution 2023.02 in support of the Oregon Community Path Grant. Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm, why are we doing it? Is it required or is it an optional thing we're doing?
So it's in our transportation system plan and so we continue to provide sidewalks as kind of, if you visualize a sidewalk improvements. So as development takes place along some of, say, Fort McKay, some of the path would not necessarily need to be designed. It's to give the bicyclists and the pedestrians a safe place to ride and walk. I personally have been run off the road on Fort McKay on my bicycle into the ditch. So I totally, can understand the need for a safe place for bicyclists and pedestrians on busy streets with higher speeds. So not only do we try to improve our roads, these also are pedestrian and bicycles are part of our transportation system plan.
Okay, so the entrance is on right into freeway, what's on?
So there's currently a sidewalk that terminates like west of the freeway. I just used kind of the general guidelines, but as you go under the overpass, you'll notice that on the north side, it terminates. So the idea would be to continue because of the wetlands, you can't just plow through and keep adding the sidewalk. So what we're proposing, and again, this is for the design and engineering of, we would propose to avoid a majority of those wetlands, connecting a pathway from that sidewalk to Cloverleaf in a sense behind Starbucks and Dairy Queen.
So what does this pathway look like? Is it sidewalk? Is it like a lane in the roadway or?
So it would be similar to our out in the back, but it would probably be 10 feet wide as opposed to the 12 that the Red Rock path is.
And so but it's showing along the roadway, so are we having to?
This is just a conceptual design to put it on paper in order for them to consider our grant application. So at this point, it's to support the application to propose this and design it. If they come back with accepting us, we would then bring you the resolution to accept the grant. If we were approved. So this is just a design and concept, but before we move forward, an engineer would have to actually design this. I'm not an engineer. So we did have an engineer put this on there. ODOT is actually the one that would facilitate the grant. They actually engineer the grant, so it would all meet ODOT specs.
And do we have the money to match this?
So we have committed approximately $85,000 to continue sidewalks, both directions, both out this way. Each year, we've agreed that that's an investment coming out of our street construction fund and things. So it would be just an adjustment to focus it over there.
Yeah, I've got a question. You said ODOT would be involved in it. A couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, they were in discussion about possibly changing the off-ramp to the south, from the south on I-5 instead of going.
That's a whole new ballgame and not part of this grant because that's way more than this grant would.
True, but how would this affect that if the path is going to be?
ODOT is designing it, so they would actually probably take a lot of that into consideration of future designs. Because we have the IAMP, which generally lays it out in theory like this. So as they would design it, it would probably incorporate a lot of.
Good job.
That's all I have.
Well, we have any input on this?
We would, through the process, we would actually probably have to have a couple open houses, public meetings, so. It would be run through an RFP similar to a lot of our other projects.
Any other discussion? A bike path for people to ride their bikes on.
Bike path, multimodal, walking bikes, and so it's pretty much to help connect those that don't have cars or would prefer to get out and walk to work, or it's connecting the east side to the west side. Because if you notice, we have a lot of residential over here, but we have no pedestrian or bicycle safe areas for them to ride or walk. There's no shoulder, there's no, there's just no safe place.
Or run. A lot of run.
It's heavily traveled on foot and bicycles.
And would the grant cover like routine maintenance that would occur to that? Or
This
would it
is
something
simply
really
for, so we would,
just for the
this
building?
is for the design and engineering of it, and then what, so once we would get through this phase, then we would go back for future funding for the construction of.
Okay. Counselor Smalley.
Aye.
Counselor Grousman.
Aye.
Counselor Hamilton.
Aye.
Counselor Woods. Counselor Daigle. Counselor Whitaker.
Aye.
Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Memorandum of agreement for Umpqua Park, staff report.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, we finally come to a point where we can kind of take what we've done in terms of leaving breadcrumbs to an end result with Wayne Ellsworth's help to now transition our homeless camping operations over to Umpqua Heart. And Wayne is here to kind of explain our long-term vision. But ultimately, what we're learning is that local governments are not thought of. Well, we're the only local government in Douglas County doing this. And the agencies who qualify for money are everything but local government. So in order to move this to the next phase, to ultimately have some sort of regional facility, the next step is to transition everything over to Umpqua Heart. And that's what this does. It puts them. Wayne, do you have anything absolutely remarkable to say?
I don't think I ever have that,
Oh, you usually do.
but did you want me to come up?
Sure, yeah. Wayne can explain why we're doing this right now at this time. I think I summarized it in the staff report, but I think you can embellish a little bit more.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm Wayne Ellsworth. I live at 355 California Street, and I'm the president of Umpqua Heart. And yeah, like Jerry said, we are at a point right now where we have shown amazing successes that is seen throughout the state. And it's been kind of eye-opening what we've been able to do in such a short amount of time. Currently, we have about 26 people that are staying in the village. And we've actually got to a point where we can work on stuff like prevention and helping people as they come in to be able to find respite. Because right now we have 2 people that have come off of I-5 that are finding respite right there. They got set up with a tent, they got set up with a sleeping bag, and they got set up with the resources to help them transition. So we're looking at maybe 2 to 3 days tops when people coming off the streets to be able to find some other place so they can transition out of here for people that aren't from the area. We're saying Douglas County. So that's kind of a really big deal. And the things that we've been doing over here compared to other places in Douglas County, it's created like a community effort that is just, it hasn't been seen anywhere when it comes to help from local churches and Lions Club and now, you know, Chamber of Commerce is chipping in. There's just so many entities and so many people, citizens, small business that have come together to be able to be helpful. It really gives us just the ability to keep moving forward. And right now, the next moving forward point is to take this initiative and start our second phase of development. Unfortunately, when it comes to other areas, we still haven't got to the point where politically we can move in to create our regional center without showing more successes. The more successes that they would like to see is a cleaner area. They would like to see a little bit more development to make it look nice. Unfortunately, it's a lot of cosmetics because stuff around homelessness, people tend to always talk about trash accumulation and drugs and, you know, whatever. And we can't get to that point without hiring somebody to be able to take that kind of stuff on. We have done all of this on the backs of volunteers for the last year. And like my report that we did in November, you know, we've helped over 100 people come through, and it's really been on, you know, the churches, it's been on city government, it's been on myself as a volunteer, and a lot of organizations coming together that we have amazing agreements with to be able to provide the wraparound services that folks need. But with this next phase that's on your staff report, it also opens it up for something that is very unique to the city of Sutherland, because we have found out that this little village here, city, whatever you want to call it, is just an amazing place compared to the other cities where people will come together, that we can actually start up our own prevention programs so that, in fact, we can partner up possibly with local PD and our local fire department to be able to help our frequent flyers where they go into the houses a lot, to be able to offer case management and peer support so these folks don't become homeless. We've been able to house, I think, about 4 people personally. When I was on the fire department, my wife and I helped them out because these were people that were always in desperate situations, and we were able to help them with housing. And I think we can do those things and really start, you know, digging into when it comes to our social determinants of health to make people live safer, more productive lives through just employing somebody that can help with these kind of things like peer support and case management, and then partnering with local agencies to be able to get those services in real time. So we are very happy about it. And I can't believe the amount of support that we're having. So hopefully I spelled it out all right with the MOU and the contract, and hopefully Jerry's explained it to you well. And
I'd like to add one other thing though, what we discovered in this process, agencies who have money that could contribute to this aren't comfortable giving money to local government, because then all the other local governments line up behind you and say, well, what about us? Even though they're not doing anything. And so the way for him to access funds from the agencies that actually have monies like opioid money and low-income housing support and things like that are really focused and meant for private nonprofits, to support other private nonprofits. So in order to get this moving in a direction where he can access more money immediately, so to speak, we need to go this way. And in the meantime, we have Pat Lynch, he's here, he's still out working and trying to raise money. We have about $3 million in monies that we've sought and that are out there that are giving us serious consideration. This next step helps encourage even that. So plus it gives me the opportunity to dump everything on Wayne, where before it was kind of.
it gives them the right to yell at me too. if I'm
60-40
screwing up.
thing.
But I mean, we found out through this process too, really working and diving in, that there's over 70 homeless kids in Sutherland schools. And I work with the McKinney-Vento liaison a lot, and we're able now to be able to try to plan ahead. So once these families do end up on the streets, we can put them right into housing so the kids aren't ending up on the streets. You can't say that about any other place in Douglas County. So we're getting to a point where we can actually work on prevention, and then we can really work on people getting them the sustainability they need in order to transition successfully. So I really appreciate the, the support from you guys in helping us along this, because it's just been very eye-opening. Thank you. So, any questions?
No, I don't yell at you.
No, you don't.
Yeah. You said in this right up here that we have. That we're going to have like tiny houses. So we're gonna do all that.
No. Right now we can use that site as a temporary solution. So everything we put on that site is temporary. And we have been able to put 2 smaller shelters on there right now for people that are in programs to transition. We've been using those carports that you see out there. And everything that we do out there will be in a transitional phase until we can get a chunk of property. And we have a chunk of property in the mix right now that we're looking at to potentially get to our phase 3, which would be the tiny homes and whatnot. But there are so many big plans in play. Once Umpqua Hart moves into that area where they're able to have employees work on their own, that we can partner with the city to work on some other projects in other areas that might need development associated with housing, like RV parks, mobile home parks and such.
What happened to the idea that this was like a little place, and then people transitioned from here into Roseburg to wherever was going to be the bigger place?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say before. When it comes to politically, we're still working on that. We have 15 acres that we still have on a contract to buy, and we have until May to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful at getting these things moving faster. For some reason, I put myself above, before the horse and before the whatever every once in a while. This was one of those situations where we were developing, and then we would catch, something would get thrown in front of us every time to slow us down. And it seems like that's just a common story that we hear when it comes to these kinds of initiatives. We have found out with that property that the property was zoned as M2, and it's supposed to be, in order to create any kind of sheltering, we would have to be able to have it in a C3 kind of ordinance. Well, turns out we would have been able to use a legislative override to be able to do that, to keep us out of like conditional use permits and so on. And we weren't able to do that. So we had to find other ways. And now the city of Roseburg is looking at creating their own urban campground model that's going to be on a separate piece of property, so we can change the zoning on this one property to get it for just tiny homes, micro shelters and whatnot. So when over here, we decided to take a stance where we were just going to try something, see if it works and see what it does, where we've had good success. Over there, they have a playbook that nobody has a copy of. Nobody knows how to read it, but you have to do it in a certain way. So it puts me in a weird situation of trying to navigate things that I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying.
You're talking about Roseburg as a place,
I guess so.
but you don't.
I've never seen it. Yeah. You only get to see it when they tell you the rules. So it for me, it just takes a lot, because I am not educated in a point of developing these things. And that's why we hired Jensen Strategies, Leland Consulting, and IE Engineering in order to do those kind of things. And they're just not moving as fast as we would like them to. So for me, I take full responsibility over that. I wish I could have it done faster, but right now I'm just not at that point.
What do you see our chances of getting some of that government money that was talked about here a week or two ago?
So if we're responding to the government money of the Oregon Mayors Association, the money from the county, there's opioid dollars that potentially can be available. And there's going to be other dollars available too, coming down from the state. I have a hard time believing any dollars would come down from up north. I'm a realist when it comes to that because I've been burnt too many times. But I do know that when it comes to a community coming together, if there was a way that we had the property and somebody to be able to lead those efforts and be able to coordinate those effectively, we've always been able to get the stuff done. When it comes to smaller towns specifically, I've been saying this because I grew up in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Ever since the Great Depression and whatnot, every time we got to hard times, our towns come together and they make things work. So I don't know if it's all about the money, but I do believe it's all about the people. And if we create this village like we have here and brought this kind of culture over there, I believe the other people will fall in, will be able to get it done. But if money comes, that makes things a little bit easier. I just don't trust it. So, yep. I'm always gonna be honest with you. So
And you're referring to the 15 acres of property, is that property in Roseburg or is that property here in Summerlin?
it's in Roseburg. It's off of Diamond Lake Boulevard. It's in the urban growth boundary. It's right before ODFW on the left-hand side of the road going towards Glide. It's in a highly developed area. And right now I have two of the city council women from Roseburg that are working on rezoning efforts to be able to get that property more feasible. It's just going to take a little time. So they're really working hard on it right now. That's their number one priority. So
If they're not successful in Roseburg, have you given any consideration to looking north towards Oakland or some area around Oakland?
I actually don't know too much about the Oakland area. I used to keep we own a small RV business, and my wife and I, we used to keep them at the mill over there. But when it comes to Oakland, I only went over to walk the streets for the different events they have. So I have no idea what it would look like on that. I do know, however, that the county is very impressed at what we're doing over here. And I know that they have properties, and I know that Cow Creek has had a lot of interest in what we're doing to be able to possibly provide property or help us purchase. That they've said in the past. So if for some reason Roseburg doesn't come about, I'm going to be looking toward Winston Dillard, because there's been some property over there that I know that has been offered in the past, and I'm going to see if those are still options. And plus, what I look for is making sure that it's close to appropriate services. And in Sutherland, we have some big business, other business that's moving into that area potentially that would definitely help our efforts out when it comes to houselessness in Sutherland too. So I'll be looking at those kind of things for sure.
So my biggest question is, for Umpqua Heart, is that going to be considered a Sutherland business
Yes,
or is it a county business?
it's considered a Sutherland business.
It's only going to cover Sutherland, Hastings Village, not, because my concern is this is a county and then other cities are going to start wanting to utilize Umpqua Heart once we start getting different funding.
Correct.
And then Hastings Village is going to turn into the main center for the whole county.
So that's actually a really good point. So as of right now, and this has always been since the beginning, Hastings Village is for Sutherland residents. We have allowed Oakland residents to come in, but that's as far as our scope goes. And everybody that I talk to in the county knows that they are for Sutherland and Oakland residents. So when it comes to determining what it means to be a Sutherland and Oakland resident, they have to be here. In the policy that is written, they had to lived here for at least a year. So that's what we've written up, so we would be able to hold up to that. So we have had many people from Roseburg tried to come into the village. They would stay for maybe 1 or 2 days and they'd be escorted back to Roseburg. So
After it moves to Umpqua Heart.
Absolutely, this is always going to be a Sutherland and Oakland
Yeah,
initiative.
but Wayne, clarify, Umpqua Heart is intended to do a countywide program.
And that's my
But what
concern.
he's saying is right now, the home of Umpqua Heart is here in Southern, because we're the only ones doing it.
Correct, that's
And it's been this cat and mouse game. None of the other cities want to do it because they're afraid that everybody's going to go to them. So they don't do it. I made this comment. I'm on a statewide homeless thing, which is why some of the reason we have to adjust my budget so I can make presentations, but you know, my argument to the League of Oregon Cities is that every city in the state of Oregon ought to be required to do what we do. And if they did, then the fear of any homeless person going to any one place, they're going to go to the same system of service wherever they go, and it would be considered null and void, right? So that's not what's happening, but that's what the Oregon Mayors Association is working towards.
Yeah,
That's just my concern of it turning into that. If we were to get $3 million for Umpqua Heart, then other cities are gonna say, well, you got the money, you have the resources. Why not do this?
yeah, the thing is, the other cities are gonna get some of that money too.
Yeah, we're gonna get money as well.
When it comes to the city, when it comes to the Oregon Mayors Association, if that legislation goes through, then us, Roseburg and Canyonville will have money to be able to do their own homeless initiatives. The thing is, Umpqua Heart is the only organization that's in the position to be able to lead these kind of initiatives. So we would be able to help in those certain areas. Where I'm at right now, there are some silent partners that have wanted to come in. However, their interests are in other places. I want to make sure that we are taken care of first, because you guys gave me the chance to try to build this with other organizations. So my loyalty is here, and I want to make sure that I do you guys right. And then once we're ready, then we can move into the other areas.
I didn't see in any of the writing that it said it was for Sutherland.
So
In black and white. Is it in here somewhere in this?
I would hope so. And if I missed out on that, I'm sorry, but it is seriously only for Sutherland and Oakland
I think
residents.
that should be in writing.
I can write an addendum to it for sure. Sure.
Is there a time frame that the individuals who utilize that location, that they can stay there, or is it a transition out of there? I mean, what's the plan to get them to be viable and, you know, productive citizens of the community?
That is a wonderful question. And I can tell you that when we started, there's no time frame on any of those kind of things. Mainly because the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals forced Sutherland's hand to be able to create something, so they weren't going to get sued for any kind of treating people wrongly, inhumanely, having to police homelessness in a certain way, or whatever you want to call it. So we can't put an actual time frame on how long people can be there. However, we have noticed that a majority of the folks will transition out of there in about 6 months. We do have 8 of them from the original. They're not the original 8 or anything, but we've had 8 people out of the original 16 that are currently still there. They're all in systems of care. They're all working programs, but a majority of them can't find housing because they can't afford it. Other than that, we've been able to transition a majority of them through these system of care plans by creating self-sufficiency, either with finding people social security, disability, finding jobs, finding places for people to live that currently have those kinds of incomes coming in. So we've been pretty successful. And then other people that had families in the area, we would reintroduce them and set up like secure plans that would help them out through different kind of rental assistance in some ways and whatnot. So we've been able to do those kind of things. And it seems as though, and when it comes to any of the new data that's out there, once you create an area where people feel safe and secure, they tend to want to be able to start something else. Like now, even with the DAP shower trailer that I run, people get out of that and they go, man, I got clean today. What else can I do? You're not in that mode where you're always fighting for either your next meal, your next place to sleep, whatever it might be. You're in a spot where you can start thinking ahead. So more people will start engaging in those programs, whether it be, finding a place to work, whether it be sobriety, whether it is getting their mental health in check, whatever it might be, because we know that homelessness is multifaceted, but people engage in something to create some sort of self-sufficiency.
And is there some sort of checklist for who find out your services or something like that, or anything who happens to be experiencing houselessness can go there.
Anybody that's experiencing houselessness that are from Sutherland and Oakland can go there. Because of how the Ninth Circuit Court is written, the law states that we have to provide a low barrier shelter. So that has nothing to do with sobriety. However, it is city property. So when it comes to city property, if I don't know what the actual ordinance is, but I don't believe you're allowed to use any kind of drugs or alcohol in a public place. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen out there because I'm not out there 24 hours a day. But I can tell you that they're cleaning up after themselves, you know, and they're cleaning up after others that come in and leave. So sobriety is something that people associate with homelessness, that there's substance use issues and mental health, because there definitely is. But I do believe that a lot of people are seeking, you know, that help to be able to get them out of that if they have issues with it. And if they don't have issues with it, I know a lot of people that are behind doors that own their own homes that are using too, that have substance use issues. So I try to do the best I can with what I got. And if people are willing to take that jump, that leap, I'll be there for them to help them transition out of, you know, substance use into sobriety. Because working for ADAPT, I tend to have the right tools for that one.
But I think the bottom line is that the government, the law, says that anybody who's homeless can go and stay in that camp in Sutherland or. And because it's up to the city to provide a place for them. That's the law.
Oh, yeah.
And we can't boot them out.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
You are absolutely correct. However, this village is for Sutherland residents and Oakland residents. I just repeat it over and over.
Madam Mayor, so if I might help ease the counselor, you and council members. So if you go into the very first page under recitals, go to terms under representations and warranties. So under that, I've rewritten C and then made C item D, and this is how it would read. Company hereby guarantees to city that Sutherland, Oakland documented citizens shall be the only authorized occupants and beneficiaries of service on all Umpqua Heart operations, either in Hastings Village or another Sutherland location. I actually just quite frankly think that's brilliant. Oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, but while they're operating here, it says community Sutherland. Question. You see what I'm saying?
We make this exclusive. It seems to me the law and so in each city, wherever they come from.
No, each city has to provide it.
They're not specifying it. Has to be resident of the city.
Chad might be able to, Chad and I actually had an early talk about this, Chad, in which we felt like the intent of the law was to be for the local citizens of that community. But we don't know for certain if it were challenged, if it would prevail.
So I could try to provide a little bit more guidance. One thing I would say in the agreement itself, if you look at the scope of services, we have language in there that talks about property and program management, and that Umpqua Heart is agreeing to manage the property based upon an agreed upon plan developed by both the city and Umpqua Heart. So I think the idea is that for these kinds of details will all be put inside this management plan that will then provide us flexibility to amend that as we get more clarity on what the court cases and state law requires in these situations. Generally speaking, what the law, according to the court cases, says is that we cannot enforce our camping ordinances saying that you can't camp in other areas of the city unless we provide somewhere else for someone to go. Now, generally speaking, if there's people who have resided or are residents of Sutherland, that's certainly one thing, and that's where we can focus our main priorities. But if you got someone passing through and they want to set up a campsite and we say, no, you can't do it, we do probably have to allow them to either go to Hastings Village or find some other space for them to go, or not enforce our camping ordinance against them. So, the areas of this area of law is evolving, excuse me, and we're probably going to find out a lot more as more challenges come down the road. But in the meantime, I think, having a program like this, really focusing on the residents of the city of Sutherland and Oakland, is going to take care of 95% of the issues. And then for those other ones, I think as we just heard previously, if they are there for a day or two and then they move on, then, we've satisfied sort of the requirements of both state law and the court cases. If someone wants to stay longer and we want to refuse them, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But as of right now, it seems like the way that the property is being managed is working out in full compliance with the law.
I do feel like that when it comes to people that come in from other areas, they do receive a lot of the resources, and we engage and develop plans around that to help them transition as fast as possible. And like I said, it's only been a few days at a time where people would come in from other areas and we would help them transition back to the area that they came from or to the areas that they want to go, or re-engage families. So it's only been a couple days at a time for people that are not from Sutherland. So
We don't have to have a sign out on the freeway saying, oh, here, oh, here.
now we found out too, I mean, just me being honest, when we get up to, the number of like 40, 45, like we had before, Sutherland didn't have the resources to be able to help in that situation. But anywhere between 20 and 30, it seems like that's a comfortable spot where the local food pantry, the St. Vincent de Paul's, the churches, and, myself can be helpful in those because I can bring over, ADAPT, HIV Alliance, Umpqua Health Alliance, UCAN, all these different organizations to use their resources to be able to help them, But once you get up in those higher numbers, it's getting really, really hard. And I have to think about, like, when it comes to these families and stuff that potentially could be on the street at any minute, how the heck, do we be able to help them so they don't end up on the streets? And what we have here with some of the development that's coming with these micro shelters would be able to help, where a person potentially would never actually hit the streets that's a Sutherland resident. And once they get in, then we can help them, wrap our arms around them, give them the love they need, and help them transition as fast as possible. So we've been pretty successful at doing it. And I'm really happy to, potentially have the ability to keep on doing it for you guys. So.
I just have a question about this, but have they geared up for the weather advisory that we've got for the next few days?
So our village is pretty unique, where they have their own heaters, they have their own stoves, and they have the ability to keep warm, and they help out each other. The churches have been really good at donating wood. They haven't told me when they're donating wood, so I don't get that, but they dump it off by the edge of the road, and then the guys and girls haul it in, they split it all together, and they divvy it up, and they take care of each other. So so far it's fine. They still have the mentality a little bit where they don't want to go into any kind of warming situation because they don't want to leave their things, not because they're scared of villagers stealing their stuff, but people outside the village that would come in and take their stuff. Right now, they have a really good set of folks that are really, really helpful, but they still fear outside influences coming in to take what they have. So, but they're doing well. Unlike, Roseburg is doing really well too with Onward Roseburg in the senior center. They have a warming center, and they do put out a shuttle. So if anybody did want to go to a warming situation, the warming center will be open throughout this week from 5:30 till the following day, where they'll get a meal, warm bed, and a lot of warm hearts to help them. And we could set up transportation to get there. So
I think it's sad that we don't have anything here, but I had mentioned to you about some cardboard. Did you give any thought to that?
I have a hard time with cardboard just because it ends up getting in the ground and I end up throwing it away anyway. So what we're doing is right now we're building, it's all, like I said, transitional. But my dad came in from Michigan, so I put him to work. He's building some pedestals for all of these shelters and stuff to get them off the ground. And he's also a heating contractor, so we're looking at different ways of being able to heat these a little bit more efficiently. So,
All right, have a motion for the memorandum of agreement, Umpqua Heart as presented.
It's amended. Has amended.
I need one,
As amended.
as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any more discussion? Your vote.
Okay.
Terrible, you gotta do it.
Counselor Smalley. Counselor Grousman. Counselor Hamilton. Counselor Woods. Counselor Daigle. Counselor Whitaker. Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
thank you, guys.
Here's the first week approval of maintenance, staff report.
Members of council, Aaron Swan, Public Works. We budgeted for a half-ton pickup for Public Works this year, and we finally found one. They were kind of in short supply. Remember, we brought you one for the water department here about 4 months ago or so. We found its partner. It's a little better price. From Dick Hanna Chevrolet for a price of $42,722.96. And we're looking for you guys to approve that if you'd like. If there's any questions, I can answer that.
I think you stated this. What is the life expectancy?
It depends, but we've got our two oldest ones are 05s in our fleet right now, so they're 18 years old. And
For many years.
you know, sometimes the engine will go, I mean, things happen, you know, but those two older ones are getting down to where we still use them almost every day, but they're getting 170,000 miles on them and kind of getting up there, you know. So.
Let's get a motion on these. Let's get a motion on these, and then we get more stuff. Motion to go for the vehicle purchase.
Purchase over.
We have a motion and second to approve vehicle purchase for public works maintenance in the amount of $42,722.96 as presented. Any discussion? Okay, vote.
Counselor Smalley. Counselor Grousman. Counselor Hamilton. Counselor Woods. Counselor Daigle. Counselor Whitaker. Mayor Sumner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to the future plan update for Swan Community Park Improvement Project update.
Just want to give you guys an update on Fort Caroline Motion Park Project 2. Let's start out with the project funding. While you guys are aware of what's been going on, but I thought I would just give a quick rundown of it. So in partnership with the Friends of Forge Pond, the city received all 5 of the notice for fee from the 5 grants that were awarded. And with that, with those funds and with the funds from the grants that the Friends of Forge Pond submitted by themselves and donations, there's roughly about $3.2 million for project 2. This is going to happen in 2023. I'll go through the scope of work, just the big rock items, if you will. So the RV bus overflow parking will be roughly 26,000 square feet. It's going to be south of the current parking lot. There'll be roughly 7 RV bus parking spaces and 16 additional vehicle parking spots. The restrooms, pavilions, there'll be 1 unit that's got 4 ADA accessible restrooms. With an attached 16 by 20 pavilion, and then there'll be 2 additional 16 by 20 pavilions that will be included in the inclusive play area. The path, so project one, if you will, we completed 0.8 miles of the path, state path. We have an additional 0.9 to go. Because of the impact to the wetlands, we're trying to minimize that impact. We did a nationwide 42 delineation. It's kind of the expedited process with the Corps and DSNL. The impact has to be less than 0.5 acres. So with that said, we're going to be installing 400 linear feet of boardwalk. They will be 10 feet wide, just like the paved path. The rest of the additional about 42+ feet will be paved. Inclusive play equipment, birding observation area, the wetland enhancement. So what's going to be, that's going to consist of is basically if you're in the current parking lot and you're looking west, you can see those two Blackberry Islands inside the Forge Pond on the western side. Those two islands, roughly 3,600 cubic yards of material, will be removed and placed over on that scarred mountain on the west side there. Something that we decided to do because of lead time and delivery time is for the city to move forward and any kind of the purchasing agent for this project to make sure that we have the material on hand. So when we get this bid from the contractor, we can just hit the ground and running because a lot of the items were 20 to 24 weeks out. So haven't quite ordered all the inclusive play equipment, but we're close to that. The boardwalk, it's been ordered, it's in production. The restroom pavilions, the design's been selected, they've been ordered. And then I'm going to go through the schedule real quick. The final design, these are tentatively, but the final design should be around March 6th. And then the bidding process will be March 27th through April 27th. Bid opening will be April 27th. Council consideration for approval will be May 8th. Start construction May 15th. And if all goes well, and the bid comes in favorable, construction complete by the end of October, first week of November. Any questions? I know that was quick and fast, but it's been going on since 2014, if you will. And nothing's really happened as far as construction out on the site since 2020, but things are going in 2022.
City manager report.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I have two items. The first item is, we talked about what we do is we bring council together in a workshop and reinforce the strategic plan goals and you help create objectives and council priorities. So we'd like to do a workshop with you. We'd like to do it during the daytime, feed you lunch and take you through the processes. Now, for those of you, Debbie, I don't even know if you were part of them too. We break you down and we spread you out for City Hall, and two of you will team up and you'll sit down with city staff. You outline the city staff what you think that department's priorities ought to be. Staff will advocate what they think they ought to be, and you guys will come together and create. And those become the objectives. So if you look at the strategic planning model, we have, our vision, mission, core values and beliefs, goals, and then underneath that's objectives. And then underneath objectives are work task initiatives, which you as staff will be creating, both the objective and the work task initiative. And I sent you a template of kind of what that looks like. So I need from you to tell us a good daytime in March where we could get you together for at least 3 hours. And hopefully you can find a way to, since you're the boss, do it. And we'll do it in here and we'll bring in lunch and we'll feed you so your electrolytes and energy stays up because it's pretty exciting.
Larry was involved in it too, like the last.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Larry.
And Joe.
So is Joe.
Well, I didn't care about you. He's my favorite. So a time in March, somebody third or fourth week in March would be great. Give staff each of the departments, see, they sit down with all their employees, they bring them together and say, okay, what are the key issues we have to face? Coming up in the next couple of years, and then you be thinking about some of the things you'd like to see happening over the next couple of years. You then kind of barter and talk about what's best, and that comes before you in a joint meeting, and then we'll have you vote to approve them at the next council meeting.
Doing before or after the next meeting?
Well, I'd like to do it. See, in March,
So it'll be March 13th will be the next council meeting.
yeah, I'd like it to be after March 13th, so.
After?
So it would be April where you would approve. The
So you want that meeting though, for us to get together.
on the third weekend in March, fourth weekend in March.
March 27th would
Because
have
see,
normally
my
been like a
wife
second
is,
council
waits
meeting.
issue on the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So. I don't know.
The 27th.
It's the week of the 20th.
I thought they were the last week of March. I just looked on the calendar. Yeah,
It was the last.
yeah, it's the 27th through the 31st.
So then the week of the 20th, are you guys okay with that?
I'm available the 23rd.
Oh, good.
That's a Thursday. Spring break's the 20th.
The spring breaks the 20th. Okay,
Oh, spring break's the 20th?
okay, yeah.
Oh.
Because my anniversary is that week and it's always during spring break.
What?
So you're seeing us.
Get that.
It's the week of the
No.
20th.
It's a week
It's
of the
spring break.
20th. She just thought it was the 27th.
Actually, spring break is the 27th. to the
Thank you.
31st.
Brian just
Okay,
looked
so-
it up. I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, I looked at their calendar today.
It says it's the 27th to the 31st.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate your help. That was really great help.
Anytime, Jerry.
So the week of the 20th after all, 23rd, good, Joe? Everybody good on the 23rd?
Thursday.
Yeah,
What time?
well, yeah, I forgot. I was thinking,
I'm the only one that works out of town.
Yeah. yeah, well, you know, it'd be like from 10 to 12:30, 10 to 1.
Later than that.
Oh, well, then, you want to go 11:30 to 2?
Yeah, that'd be better.
All right, is everybody okay with that? Okay, everybody okay, 11:30 to 2?
On March 23rd.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're participating in that?
I'm not gonna say anything because I've never said yet.
I think we better add it.
Right,
Okay, I
it's
got one
probably
other
gonna go to
issue talk to you
2:30.
about. Counselor Daigle, your opinion in this really matters. So we have this summer throwdown event that is a partnership of 5 organizations. It's gonna be pretty cool. You know, barbecue contact, you know, you've heard about all that. And so we took a presentation to the Transit Room Tax Committee, who couldn't even field a quorum. And there's been some discussion and debate that maybe the chamber operating on their own isn't the best route to go. So I met with Jessica, or remember when Jessica wanted to talk to us? We'd like to propose kind of reformatting the Transit Room Tax Committee to have kind of a public-private partnership where there would like be 3 council members and 3 chamber or hospitality and tourism people with a chamber board member or so. And redo it. They are okay with it. I wanted to know if you guys would be okay with it, and if I could work with a couple councilors, Counselor Daigle and another council. And we can work with the chamber about creating a new public-private partnership where we would coalesce TRT funds and make it a more effective tourism oriented. Because there's differing points of view. Some members of the TRT committee don't understand the nature and character of the real law and have supplemented language in there that really isn't required and that may not be bad. But I was just disappointed to go to a meeting and spend 2.5 hours pouring our soul out, asking for money, and at the end of the day, it was, oh, we don't have a quorum, you're gonna have to wait till next month. And it's like, holy moly, you got somebody coming asking for $20,000, expending public funds, and you couldn't organize yourselves enough to show up. And then the chamber board met last week, and even they are a little like, we're not sure even if this is a best move for us on our own. So they want us to be part of it with them. And so of course, you, Counselor Daigle, but another counselor would be great. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get back to Jessica and Annalee and say, we have 2 counselors that would be willing to sit down with your board and look at how we reform the Transit Room Tax Committee to be a more of a public-private partnership. And it would take away some of the both sides pointing fingers at each other, like, there's been some people who've gone there and asked for money and they said, well, you don't meet the criteria, and they walk away and they're not very happy. But the Transit Room Tax Committee and at their core is probably right. But how do you go about doing it? On the other side of the coin, we know the law and how it should actually be done. I mean, there's this theory from some members of Transit Room Tax Committee, you must prove heads and beds. No, that's not the law. That's not the requirement. You must demonstrate that you're going to market 40 to 50 miles out. And the outcome of that is expected to be heads and beds. But it's not our responsibility to generate heads and beds for you. It's our responsibility to market out and show that we're going to bring those people in. Then it's up to you, motel, restaurant owner, to bring them into your facility. So little things like that, and I think we can work it all out. So now that we're done, I'm done. Mhm.
Is there a plan kind of in place with the expected participants coming in? And yes, you have basically one hotel here, things other ones.
We got 2. Motel 6 is pretty good too. Yeah. But you're right, we only have 2. And the beauty of this is, though, when we started doing this throwdown, we were concerned that the 2 motel owners would be the first ones saying, hey, you need to prove to us you're gonna bring heads and beds, Well, what we learned is that both the motels actually own motels in Roseburg. So this cross sharing and having over is a great fit.
Comment a little bit on that too. That was my first meeting with the CRC, and I was kind of disappointed too. I thought, why don't these people come to the meetings so they can do some business done? And this is pretty important stuff. And where are we gonna get this downtown and whole community going? We gotta do this kind of stuff. And I think some of them are gonna be painful, but this is a perfect event to start bringing people in. And we need to do more of it.
And the other thing that we're doing too is we're really closely partnering with the Blackberry Festival and letting them know. And we've actually offered them space to sell tickets and post their car and market them. But this cross sharing, by the way, I don't know if I told you, the Chamber of Commerce, Lisa, you'll appreciate this, Counselor. The Chamber of Commerce is going into those offices now. And they're going to create a little boardroom, and so I'm really excited that their operations are going to be more vibrant and present downtown.
It's sad that from all the ones that we get the tax from, that they don't want to be more involved in it, but we can't really get any of them to rarely come to the meetings. Yeah, so I don't know how we manage it.
You know what? I was curious why. I don't understand what you do. You know,
Jim, what do you think? They're busy and don't come, I guess, I don't know.
Well, I think it was your first meeting, wasn't it? Oh, that explains all the dysfunction.
Jim is very.
I have all the records.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rarely do somebody from the motels come. The one from Motel 6 has come once or twice. But then there was some stuff going on. But we've got 3, we have 2 motel, well, 3 actually. You don't really count the third one, I guess, but they'd have to pay 2. And we have Oak Hills and we have, what are the-
It's like KOA.
Mm-hmm.
so we do have, well, yeah, so we do have more than just 2 motels. So we need to somehow drum up, say, we need somebody from your outfit to come to the meetings, be part of this.
Yeah.
I know they're not really able to have it. They can have 15 more rooms here, actually.
Sure, yeah, we agree. Yeah, so I think it's gonna be exciting, just to create a little more energy around, doing activities and that kind of thing, so.
Are they gonna have the litter booths outside of just the beer and barbecue?
Mhm. Yeah, multiple, we've got, the shaved ice and caramel corn and,
Outside of food vendors.
no, just wineries. So, but we're creating a connection. Jessica's working with my wife. I recruited my wife to be on the group with us because the Rotary's not doing the auction this year, so she's got free time on her hands. But the downside is she's got to work with me. But connecting all the businesses in Sutherland to this event by having coupons and encourage them. And Terry Prestiani's part of my group in logistics. We're going to actually have a small yellow school bus. Don't think negatively about that, but it's going to be to take people to other restaurants if they want to dine or want to go someplace else. Or
You're not driving, are you?
no,
Okay.
Just right.
sorry, I took a quick.
Okay. Recreational vehicle usage.
You deserve that.
Mayor, city council, I forgot why I was here. That, no. So hopefully you guys had a chance to review the staff report and information regarding the idea that was presented to you at December's council, I think by Jerry. About our development code, where we stand with residing in an RV. So this is a follow-up to that discussion. We conducted some research. Obviously in our Sutherland Development Code, our land use code, as Jerry likes to call it, our cop book, that rules and regulates what you can and cannot.
I
do
hate
on
you.
property.
We love it.
An RV is a temporary structure. It, doesn't meet the size restrictions. It doesn't meet the building codes. It's not intended to be lived in full time. Hence, our code then prohibits it. So I did reach out to 9 jurisdictions, all the jurisdictions in Douglas County, along with Bend, Springfield, Cottage Grove, Eugene. Douglas County is the only one that allows it permanently, but that is permanently like, that's your house. So that's your house. It's not that along with your house. It's that, and you file that agreement, that covenant that gets recorded on your property, holding the county not liable for that, because since an RV is not intended to live in full time, the county building department does not want you coming back suing them when something happens. A few other, hold your thoughts. A few other jurisdictions do allow it as temporary camping through an application process, but temporary, one of them was 7 days, one was 15. Option, yes. Would it be really cumbersome? And who's going to facilitate all that? The application, make sure, enforce it, they're in, out. Is another thing. Springfield, if you read in here, during the COVID-19 prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the wildfires that happened, the holiday fires, Springfield did see a lot of influx of people obviously losing their house due to the fires. They allowed that temporary living in RVs. Last year, from February until December, they went through workshops, public outreach, research. They decided to put together that flyer that was in your packet, allowing the residency of an RV temporarily, but meeting
some pretty, some guidelines. Still, they're gonna actually revisit that this spring to see how it's going. So from December till already, I think March, I think their council is going to come back and revisit it. And then, so obviously with it's not permitted in our development code. Within our municipal code, you technically cannot connect and dump your RV sewer into our public sewer. If you guys go through those options and decide we want to revisit, change our code, then obviously there is that legislative process to not only change our development code, but our municipal code. But I'm talking to Chad in the last few weeks. He also stated because in our municipal code right now, how we prohibit camping or residing within an RV in our development code. He talked about if you guys elect to move forward with keeping it prohibited, to amend the municipal code through a resolution. So that way, when they are enforced, it's easier to use the ballots and husband. So on that third page, there are 4 options we gave you, or, it's open for discussion or further workshops. You guys want to go, you guys need to do.
Well, I got something that to say with this. We're allowing homeless people to live in camps. That's right. They have to follow any rules. So if there were enforcing rules on people that want to have a place to live, and frankly, I don't like the size restrictions on homes. The mini homes are getting to be popular now. So what if a guy wants to live in a 400 square foot house? I don't care. I think that they should be allowed to. So I don't know how we have to work this out with the state of the county, but frankly, I think we should open that up more so that people can do that, so they have a place to live. One of the things that contributes to the homeless situation is you can't rent a house unless you have good credit. Yeah, sometimes too much. I don't know what it's there. But it gets to be to a point where you can't afford to rent a place because of the expense. It actually costs more to rent a place than it does to buy to rent everything in South Bend. So why don't we make it easier for people? Instead of restricting them, kind of making it harder for people to find a place to live.
I guess there's 2 answers for that. Amending the development codes and removing or lowering the size restriction. But still, when you apply for a house through the city and through the building department, that home, that single family dwelling is meeting state building codes. Where an RV is not meeting state building codes, so that's the difference. And if you came to us, you paid your system development charges for an actual house, you end up going through the building department and meeting the building codes, regardless of the size. So yes, lowering that size restriction, is one thing, but that would still be meeting the building codes. So like these are 2 kind of.
I don't know how it sounds, but we went over to Florence last year and we stayed in the 2 units that were actually rated as an RV. But for some reason, and I read about this because I was curious about the whole system. And apparently they can park those and rent them out for people to live in. Maybe not permanently, but for
Yeah, it's probably supposed to be road ready and. There's usually some.
And so the similar thing we have right here in town. Is right in here. And I don't know what sizes it is, but how did that work out?
Where is that? Good question.
Yeah.
I think that the other issue you run into when you're just allowing it all over is people end up then, well, I'm gonna rent my space. And let RVs go into this, and that happened in Rosewood where they allowed public areas to have RVs in certain areas, and then you end up with a whole bunch of RVs, and you're gonna end up with RVs that are insightful, and then homeless camps in certain areas, and
But on some of these private property, I think that accepts that.
until that private property finds it's okay, and then they start charging, and then you have
5, 6, 7 RVs.
And I think like Springfield, they say you not to allow, can't provide rent, plus you have to provide sanitation, barber service, XYZ. Well, how are you gonna enforce if you wanna have someone rent it, living in an RV? How would we know if you're charging rent? Yes.
Also, connection to the
Realistically.
sewer and the water.
Hmm.
Is a big problem.
Because we've got some on Calafia right now, like 6. Where's the sewer and water coming from those? They come from-
It's really you can have, and our then truck you can use for an office.
You can have and store your RV on your property, it's living in it every day, so yes, if you wanna go out there like it's your man cave. That's fine, but it's that everyday continual use that has a permanent residence when it's not intended for.
My thought is you have, right now, is there any place that's a real problem and it's complaint driven at this point?
And it is complaint driven, so it's at what direction do you guys want us to go, at what direction? If we're gonna continue the code the way it is, do we also want to code? And then do we remain complaint driven, or do we act on all of them that we are aware?
I think we will need to change the code or stick to code. Well, however, I mean, right now, there are 6 of them that are living out there that are not code.
We don't really have a problem with this, do we?
Yeah, when I've got 2 calls once, know what's going on California, can I rent somebody my RV in the backyard? 2 of them. got it.
Why, is that, Brian, you know the circumstances there, right?
Well, I know, I believe 2 of them, I think there's a.
I mean, I know because I talked to the property owner after you had sent the code letter. I mean, are you wanting his story?
Well, I mean, she's aren't they family members?
Yeah, the daughter went through a divorce suddenly, and then her mom, the dad died in Texas. She came to visit, loved it. She has medical issues. So they're letting her stay there at the moment.
You guys have a hardship policy of some sort?
We do have a temporary family hardship. It has to still be a manufactured home. He has actually come in, looked at his options, possibly doing accessory dwelling unit, going through that up to 800 square foot secondary home for that. So he is, actively looking at or even selling. He has talked about even selling and moving.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not somebody that's out renting it to use it to make money. That's for supporting disadvantaged family members.
All 6 or just the 3?
I don't know of 6. I'm confused by that.
I only
know 3. I know the 3.
Well, okay.
Is there 6?
I hate to mention it, but what about the one down by Danny's place?
Those people are a homeless family with 6 children, and only reason they're home, I mean, it's hard to find a place to rent with 6.
So
A couple of
that's
them are
in-
just being repaired. Some of those are rotating through. One of them, those people are gonna be out, and you're talking about the one on our,
It looks like a little RV project now, is what I'm saying.
They set it up like that, just to
So-
look like a park.
What
yes,
about water and sewer? Is that being used?
No.
Or none?
water is. And there is, anyway, so the family is moving up into the house that is being vacated by one of the developments that's happening. They're all in the process of moving into something more permanent as soon as those things are completed.
Okay, I know one's been there over 4 years,
That was a night watchman situation.
but somebody my age, I'm told.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Spinister aunt. Very observant woman and good with a gun. Really good with a gun.
You know, it costs for one of these days, but the parks around here.
That's a lot.
700 or 800 months. And that's-
Plus your trailer payment.
Well, and just to circle back around for the hardship situation, our hardship circumstance is pretty cumbersome and it has to be renewed annually. So what we do, because we try to take people for the most realistic opportunity, and so the accessory dwelling unit that we increased the size on, allowing up to 800 square feet for that secondary. So any property that does have a house can have an accessory dwelling, and it just has to be built to building code to make it habitable, so it's safe for someone to reside in. So we kind of throw that out there as an option for people as well, just because it gives them a less, I'm going to say a less expense than placing a manufactured home and then still paying an annual renewal fee because they have to renew it on a medical basis. It's not a financial, but it's a medical only for the hardship. So.
And then that you remove it once
Madam
that
Mayor?
hardship is gone, and then the ADU is actually.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, same infrastructure.
I think we need to differentiate, because I think Counselor Diggle brought up a good question. Somebody else has some good question. So I don't understand the emotion over it. Are you upset because somebody breaking the rules? Are you upset because it's really a horrible situation? And if it's somebody just breaking the rules, but it's not necessarily a horrible situation, maybe, and you look at the longer range benefits to the community and the trajectory of our economy, would it be better than, like Councilor Hamilton said, we should rewrite the rules? You know what I'm saying? Because it just seems to me, if it's a horrible situation, there's no rewriting the rules, there's enforcing the code. But if you're looking at it and you just don't like it because, oh my gosh, that's not right, you're being a hall monitor, so to speak, because you don't like the fact that the rules are being broken or not adhered to, well, then I think that needs to be considered. And should we rewrite the rules, or do you want us to just kick them all out and enforce the code?
I don't really see it as a major problem in the city at this point.
Well, you do.
I don't, but I
Oh.
have other people that want to do the same thing, so now you're gonna have them all over. the place.
That's my point. So maybe we should rewrite the code that allows it, so long as it doesn't become a problem.
So maybe we rewrite it to be with some caveats.
And I'm not trying to inappropriately influence you. I'm wanting to separate the emotion over, gee, they're breaking the rules and that's not fair, let's go punish them, versus, oh my gosh, this is a horrible detriment to the long-term benefit of our community. I think there's two different kinds of motivation there, and we just need to determine which route we want to go.
So do we want to move more toward one where we're doing a workshop to discuss how we want to move forward to allowing recreational vehicles to be occupied as temporary housing?
Yeah, I think it'd be a great topic on the 23rd. As you sit down and talk to community development and express your points of view. We work for you. Whatever you want us to do, we'll do.
Well, I've heard two things now. I've heard permanent and I've heard temporary.
Good point.
I would be in favor of temporary with it being kept in a certain condition.
Right.
And
And then he's going to police that condition in a sense, because I mean, yes, granted, we can take someone down or like an application process, a registration, so we're aware of it, but again, if they don't fulfill and do that kind of application, we're not aware of it, and then who's gonna go out, say if it's temporary, say 6 months, who's going to then?
Our code enforcement officer would, if we wrote it into the code.
now it's being complaint driven.
I guess, do you know, Troy, speaking complaint driven, how many complaints Kitty has done?
You want me to come up or? Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I think a workshop's a pretty good idea. There's a lot of different angles you can look at this. There's your job to come up with the code, my job to enforce the code, but also have state law that I have to enforce, which can't tell me I can't enforce that. So we have two different things. There's littering complaints,
which can go along with an RV ordinance. So if like right now, if you allow it, or somebody live in an RV and garbage starts accumulating, that could be a state law violation as well, not only a city ordinance violation. So if you did allow it, there's certain things that still could not take place. If you decide to let planning hook up to water, sewage, or whatever, do a temporary 6 month. The only thing is, somebody's gonna have to track that. Somebody's gonna have to know when somebody moved in, and according to that time limit when they're supposed to be moved out. And then what does that look like? Because essentially you're gonna be creating homelessness by kicking some people out in certain circumstances. And so what's the public outlet gonna be on that? So just a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of moving parts with just making a snap judgment decision. So I'd recommend, Jerry said, is sit down and have a workshop, talk to not only planning, but we're the ones that are actually doing the enforcement. So I'd like to have a voice in that as well.
Where are you getting, complaint wise now on, complaint driven on RVs now, because right now it's against the code?
So right now, and I'm going to clarify, we're not complaint driven. We go out and actually actively enforce this stuff. So I don't know where that's getting crossed up, but
That was in our, packet, sorry.
gotcha.
Driven, so.
Okay.
Our understanding.
Okay.
You guys.
So our code enforcement is not only going to
No longer.
They used to be.
It used to be that way a long time ago, but now we don't wait to get called. We're actively out there trying to solve problems before they become problems, and do a lot of education. So essentially right now, we do get complaints. We're kind of waiting to see what direction you guys want to go with this, to decide what we're going to do. So what we're doing right now is we're noticing them of the current ordinances and what those violations are. And we're essentially telling them they have to abide by the ordinance. And then we're leaving it at that for the time being. So we're just educating right now.
So I just plant a seed with you, the two criteria, if you don't want to change it, then we'll go enforce it. We'll kick all those people out. If you don't want to kick them out because they aren't really causing any great, then let's think about a possible temporary process that they would come in and apply and require some sort of renewal and inspection and review that would hold them accountable to a certain pattern or standard of conduct in terms of living in there. At the end of the day, though, you don't want them to rent them out, right? It's got to be kind of a family oriented, support disadvantaged or temporary issue, right?
Listen to the video.
You all agree with that? So then if you come on Thursday at that workshop, you'd be thinking about that criteria then. So now we've narrowed it down that we're going to enforce the ones that are trashy, not operating or living in a condition, and those that are renting out. But we're willing to consider an alternative temporary condition that would be monitored. And we could do that through code enforcement, as the chief said. So you can be thinking about those things. Does that sound okay? All right.
So code enforcement would be the vehicle.
Planning would be, and then code enforcement then would be responsible for the monitoring and the education, as the chief said.
Under council comments, remember, monthly meeting time is limited. Please ask questions or make statements that are likely to benefit the group. Individual comments and questions that could be handled on a one-on-one basis should be handled outside the meeting. Councilor Pollock.
I love the idea of the sidewalk going out to the pond. The amount of kids on the house, fishing poles and stuff. Yeah, it's important.
Councilor Bradley. Councilor Hamilton. Councilor Wood. Councilor Daigle.
By the food bank over there, there's a pickup park there. And it got a makeshift. And this instructor.
It's gone.
From.
Oh, it's five boxes now. It moved to front, well, it's in the church parking lot and they now back to town.
You're just moving around town.
Oh, we had been there, it was back there for like 3 weeks.
And that should be a consideration for what
That
the
needs to
chief's
be
talking
like.
about.
There was also.
It's very creative.
Anyhow, other than that, I just want to kind of go into that. Baptist, Pasadena. You know, I think we've kind of been working on this downtown stuff for, I don't know how many years now, it's been quite a while. Yeah, and I really think we need to move that along somehow. And I'm not sure how that happens. If we're gonna do it, we need to do it. I don't think. I didn't say to my employees, are we gonna talk about it or are we gonna do it?
We'll see you next.
Yeah, once you have one, yeah, I need to get involved, that'd be really good. I'd love to have you there.
At City Hall.
I just want to thank the city for cutting down those trees that were at the, used to be mortuary. But those trees were dead and they were ugly and bad representation to the city. And now I notice that they got that done, so.
I did that myself.
Just to clarify, we cut down the fir tree a while back, but they were private people cut it.
No, it's not. No.
Well, I mean, they blend up to what was there too. It was not us. Just to clarify.
You should have taken full credit for it.
Well, I
What'd
don't
you do
like
that
doing
for?
that. To be transparent. No, just carry.
Oh, you.
Councilor Woods.
Okay, I just wanted to maybe ask a question or no, but we're finding that like in front of our business that we're finding a lot more individuals who appear to be using drugs and if they're just kind of erratically in behavior. So I don't know what. I don't know what.
I only do that once a day.
I see they're all very. But it's just concerning because we do have a business that facilitates the need for children. And so it's just, you know, we're on a hyper alert when, you know, we're having a lot of individuals coming through.
We'll call the police right away.
We witnessed the lady out there just completely in her van, just like she could knock on the door open. And this just seems like in the last couple of months, it's just more apparent.
I agree. I've
Just a
seen the same
concern
thing.
because of, you know, we have a lot of kids coming in and out and it's always down to that.
And I don't have anything. Ending with public comment. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to present information regarding items on the agenda. A time limit of 3 minutes for citizens shall apply. Do we have any public comment? This meeting is adjourned. Announcement that the council will take a 5-minute break before meeting an executive session called under ORS 192.660.